Hello and welcome back. It's been about 3 months, 2.5 months or so since I released my last video, and I very much apologise for that. I just want to say that there are four albums in specific that I particularly really want to review this year. Close to the Edge by Yes, Pawn Hearts by Vandegraaff Generator, The Lamb Lives Down Broadway by Genesis, and Lark's Tungsten Aspic by King Crimson. The reason that I specifically want to review these four is because all four of those bands released their first albums in 1969, which is 50 years ago. So I would like to, as sort of a 50-year anniversary celebration for these four bands, I would love to review my personal favourite album of each of these bands, which is the ones I mentioned. But the two things I want to talk about today are two things that are sort of being talked about in the prog world at the moment. The first one I'd like to talk about is Steven Wilson going back to Porcupine Tree. I personally find that kind of silly when people say that, and I think it's a complete waste of time. Steven Wilson is gonna do what he wants to do. If he wants to go back to Porcupine Tree at some point in the future, it's going to be because he wanted to, not because the fans wanted him to. Steven Wilson has always been someone who does what he wants to do musically. He's always said that he's not an entertainer, he's an artist, and I agree with that. You know, he's gonna release albums that not many fans like. He's gonna release albums that a lot of fans dislike. That's because he constantly wants to change his style, and he's gonna do stuff that maybe annoys people or people dislike. But for one thing, I think if you were to say go back to Porcupine Tree, the more Steven Wilson hears that, I think the less likely he's going to go back to Porcupine Tree. He's probably just going to make him want to do more solo stuff, just to annoy the people who say that, and as well as the fact that he just doesn't want to right now. If Steven Wilson wants to get back together with Porcupine Tree, then great. But in either way, don't really have an opinion. I think if it wants to continue his solo stuff, that's brilliant as well. Personally, my favourite Steven Wilson album ever is The Raven That Refused to Sing. I think it's better than any Porcupine Tree album I've heard, and I think it's better than any other side projects he's done. Storm Corrosion, No Man, Blackfield, whatever. Of course, Porcupine Tree still have amazing albums like Dead Wing, Stupid Dream, In Absentia, and others. But personally, The Raven That Refused to Sing is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of his music. But yeah, he's not going to go back to Porcupine Tree if he doesn't want to. And as well, you need to think about the other band members. Gavin Harrison, I think, is probably what most Porcupine Tree fans who would want to be the drummer. And he's in King Crimson at the moment, and he has been for years. So again, I don't see how he's going to suddenly change his mind and decide that he no longer wants to be in King Crimson. King Crimson are one of the most legendary, greatest prog rock bands of all time. So I don't see him suddenly changing his mind and going, oh, I don't want to be in King Crimson anymore, I want to go back to Porcupine Tree, knowing that Porcupine Tree, the members of Porcupine Tree have been, they've broken up for quite a while, and they may break up again. So an opportunity like playing in King Crimson, like, it may only come along once in a lifetime, and I really doubt Gavin Harrison wants to give that up. Though it doesn't always come along once in a lifetime. Like Tony Levin, Pat Mastelotto, for example, have been in King Crimson twice. So not always, but I don't see Gavin Harrison giving that up. And you also need to think about Steven Wilson. He doesn't want to be in Porcupine Tree at the moment, and he's not going to unless he wants to. So saying go back to Porcupine Tree isn't going to make a difference to him. So you might as well just stop, because he's not going to do it. The other thing I want to talk about is Rush, and whether or not the band has a future without Neil Peart. I've heard a lot of people throwing around names that they would like as a replacement drummer, ones like Neil Peart, Danny Carey. I just want to quickly say that I think Mike Portnoy, Mike Portnoy would be a terrible replacement for Rush. This isn't because I dislike Dream Theater, which I do. I'm not a fan of Dream Theater, but I think that Mike Portnoy, if he joined Rush, he would try and push the band backwards, in that he would want the band to do stuff like Hemispheres and Farewell to Kings. Those albums, he'd want them to go back to that style, And Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, if you've listened to any Rush album since Grace Under Pressure onwards from 1984, they don't do those kind of songs, those kind of albums anymore. Rush have always been a band that constantly changed their style, so then he's not gonna convince Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson to push backwards and go and regress, as I would call it. They're not progressing if they're going backwards. They regress back to the late 70s. You know, you'd need to go back to like Moving Pictures or Signals to hear that kind of music. And I don't think Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee are gonna want to do that. I think they're gonna want to continue and make like modern style music in their own way, and as they should. I wouldn't want Rush to go backwards. I wouldn't want any band to go backwards, because that's kind of the opposite of what being progressive means, in my opinion, anyway. So Mike Portnoy is a good drummer, but I think he would be a terrible member of Rush. Basically, I don't think they would work musically. But the main point is that I want to make is I don't want Rush to continue without Neil Peart at all. I think anyone who replaced him, I think like there are other drummers who would be better than Mike Portnoy, but I don't think I personally feel that if Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee were to replace Neil Peart as the drummer of Rush with someone else, I think that would be quite a betrayal and quite a dick move, because I mean those three guys, the amount of albums they made together, the personal stuff they've been through, but they never had any big fights like King Crimson. Sorry, not King Crimson. Pink Floyd. Um, you could say that Roger Waters was irreplaceable, but at the same time, Roger Waters left Pink Floyd after a big argument. There was a lot of bad blood. While Neil Peart and the other two, members of Rush got along absolutely fine throughout their whole career. So I think that would be pretty bad as well. If Neil Peart suddenly decided he hated Geddy Lee Next Life and stormed out, it would be a bit more understandable. But since they left it on such friendly terms, I think it would be really, really unfair to Neil Peart to continue without him. Though, on the other hand, if Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee want to uh, do something else, like if they want to continue making music together with a different group of people, or they get another drummer and they call it something else, that would be absolutely fine. In fact, I'd like that. I don't think it would ever be the same, but I'd really like that. It's been 7 years since any of them released music, so if Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee started a totally new band, got a new drummer, maybe some other people or whatever, and called it something else, I would have absolutely no problem with that. But I think Neil Peart in Rush is completely irreplaceable. There are some bands where even if one band member leaves, it ceases to be that band. And I think Rush is like the pinnacle of that. If Alex Lifeson left, it wouldn't be Rush. If Geddy left, it wouldn't be Rush. If Neil left, it wouldn't be Rush. I know John Rutsey was the original drummer, but they've really found their sound and their style when Neil joined the band. I don't think they would have been half as popular if they'd continued without Neil. If John had stayed in the band, they would have been pretty generic. Neil pushed them in a much more interesting direction, I think. So I wouldn't want any Rush without Neil Peart. So that's all I wanted to say. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.